Hey, Larken Rose here. I've already done a video about how, contrary to what you will see on television and in movies, police, the vast majority of the time, are not brave, righteous protectors. They are cowardly thugs. Now, there was another aspect of that I've been meaning to make a video about, but I'm only getting around to it now because a friend of mine was just the victim of the exact type of cowardly fascism that I wanted to make a video about, so now I'm making this. By analogy, imagine a schoolyard bully beating up some little kid on the playground, and he hits him and he's beating the tar out of them, and then the kid finally swings back. And the schoolyard bully goes, wah, and he cries to the teacher, 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 Johnny hit me. Never mind that the reason he hit me is because he was on the ground and I was beating the crap out of him. He hit me. Well, that is the mentality. That is the cowardice of cops everywhere. That is why their favorite charges are resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. Because they want to be able to do whatever the hell they want to you, with or without legal or moral justification. And if you do anything to resist, then somehow you're the evil criminal. And not only will they try to beat you up, but then they'll try to prosecute you for having defended yourself against these cowardly thugs. Unfortunately, I have a very appropriate real-world example to point to. And something that happened recently to a friend of mine named Cheryl up in Canada. And so at this point, I'm going to jump into her story, and then I'll give some comments at the end. So what you're about to see is edited together from an interview I did with her and some video she recorded to get her thoughts on tape ahead of time. So I will play that. You can hear her gruesome tale, and then I'll have a few choice words to say about the fascists who did it. Okay, so let's first do the super short version of what happened, sort of starting with the ending, the punchline, and then we'll go back and fill in the details.
Long story short, police were called to my house by my neighbor John Marin for yelling. I guess they heard some yelling and fighting. And long story short, police, from my perspective, what happened is I woke up to my 4-year-old daughter crying in her room. I was wrapped in a blanket, and I went to go see why she was crying, and lo and behold, I walked right into a female police officer. She did not identify herself, and she was then sitting next to my child, touching her and touching her hair. So I said, "Get out of my house. You have no warrant to be here. Who let you in? Nobody let you in. Get out. Get the fuck away from my child. Get the fuck out of my house." And she didn't like the way that I spoke to her, which I really don't care because we have free speech. And if you can't handle free speech, you should be sitting behind a desk. So she then slammed me into the wall in front of my 4-year-old daughter in my daughter's room. I flicked out the light because I didn't want my daughter to see any more damage than she already saw. She just saw a female police officer slam her mother into the wall for no reason. I ran up the stairs and I pushed the couch in between me and the police officer. I tried to defuse the situation, saying, like, "What are you trying to arrest me for? You can't arrest me for anything. You're unwarranted in my house. Get the fuck out." She then yanked me over the couch violently by my left arm, which is my bad arm, and it popped. So then I defended myself against her, which she also didn't like. And that's because I'm not a doormat. I will defend myself against any other human being who's trying to cause my body harm. She then slammed me on the ground. At this point, I am topless and just in my thong, because that's how I sleep in my own house. And she then sat on top of me, again, with my bad arm, put it behind my back, and was squeezing so hard that I heard my shoulder pop, and I screamed because it was very painful. And I told her to let go of me. 3 times. She would not let go of me. So I then continued to defend myself by biting her. And sure enough, she let go. So it works. You're taught that in self-defense classes, and I know that. That's when she called for PC Donaldson to come over. The female sergeant is Jeanette Drew, by the way. And the PC Donaldson was the male cop that came over, sat on top of me, 2-hand choked me by my throat until my eyes were rolling in the back of my head. and I was gargling for air, and I almost went unconscious. So they almost killed me, all in front of my 4-year-old daughter, who crept up the stairs, and she saw all of this. And that is the worst part about it, is that my daughter almost saw her mom get killed by police officers.
We actually have some pictures of some of the nice things they did to you, or the end result of them. So we'll include them in the video. Now these pictures were actually taken, what was it, a couple days after?
Yeah, they were taken 5 days after, because they had threw me into a cage and locked me in there for 5 days. And the photographs that I have taken by the security guards in the jail, I have to subpoena a lawyer to get them. So the only photos I have available right now were taken through my cell phone 5 days after.
Okay, so 5 days after. So in other words, it was considerably worse immediately after it happened. So this is the better version. You already mentioned that they didn't have a warrant when they showed up. Did they have permission to be there, or did you?
No.
And did you tell them to leave?
I told them to leave about 5 times when they were in my daughter's room, when I noticed that they were in my house, and I told them to leave. And Jesse, from what I heard on his end, he also told them to leave when they came to the door as well.
Okay, so let's back up to first of all the things that happened the night before that sort of led up to this. Can you give just a really short version of that, just so people have some clue?
Short version, Jesse and his mom got into a fight at the bar that we were at before this. I tried to stand up for my mother-in-law, and Jesse and I got into a fight, and then he ran home, and I ran home, and he didn't know I came home, so the whole time he's freaking out on the phone with his stepdad, thinking I'm not at home, but I had already made it home. It was only a few blocks away from my house, and I was sleeping in bed when all of this went down. So Jesse's on the phone with his stepdad, freaking out and yelling, and that's why the cops said that they heard yelling. They apparently threw in that they heard a female yelling, which is totally impossible because I was asleep in my bed. So that's a lie.
Okay, so by the time they show up, you're not only are you not doing anything, you're not in the argument, you're asleep in bed.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I point that out is, they showed up and you're asleep. You're not doing anything. You're not accused of anything. And these peace officers show up, and the end result is that they brutally assault you and then kidnap you. Like, that's what peace officers in Lindsay, Ontario do by showing up at a situation.
Just with the way that she was with me, she didn't identify herself. She didn't go, whoa, 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 we're just here to make sure everyone's okay, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do that. Like, she totally provoked the situation and made it worse. Her intention was to work me up and cause a fight.
Now, there was never any suggestion that your daughter was in danger or harmed. Like, that had nothing to do with this, right?
No.
So they had no freaking business being in her room at all. So
they had no reason to be in there, and that's why I was instantly in like a protective, defensive mode, because there's someone I don't know in my house around my 4-year-old daughter, and she's crying.
Right, yeah. Heaven forbid a mother be protective of her young child. How old is she?
4.
So, heaven forbid a mother be protective of her 4-year-old child when there's an armed stranger in her room, unannounced, who won't leave. So then he shows up, somebody Donaldson?
Yeah, that would be Mark Donaldson. Hang on, I'm just looking at the reports here. Yeah, Mark Donaldson, badge number 41, was the other male,
okay.
The male officer.
Now, can you remember, I know we've talked about this before, can you remember some of the nice things that this peace officer did to you?
Well, because I was defending myself against Jeanette Drew, the female officer, and she was struggling, she then called over Mark Donaldson, who then flipped me on my back, and he two-hand choked me and sat on top of me and choked me until I was unconscious almost, and he pretty near killed me.
Oh, incidentally, I forget what they're called up there, but some official interviewed your daughter, and she saw that, didn't she?
My daughter, the whole point of me running away from Jeanette when she slammed me into the wall was to run up the stairs away from my child so she didn't have to witness that. But she could hear what was going on upstairs, and she crept up the stairs, and she was standing at the top of the stairs where it was all happening, and she saw the male police officer choking me out completely.
Right, and she told the other, the whatever they call it, child services, whatever
yeah,
they call
she
it.
told because the Children's Aid is now involved in this case. She actually told the Children's Aid worker that, and the Children's Aid worker was very surprised because that was left out of the report, obviously.
Gee, what a shock. They also left out of the report something that I believe Donaldson said to you about your child.
Yeah. So he dragged me out to the police car. No shoes, no socks, just barefoot. They threw my snow pants on me as I was naked. As all of this was happening, I was wearing my thong and I was topless. So there's another thing that they forgot to mention in their reports. They said I was clothed, which I wasn't. So he dragged me out to the cop car, slammed my head, typically, off the window, like they always do. And he then sat in the front seat, and he turned around and he cocked his fist in my face like this, and he said, "I will personally make sure you never see your fucking child again." And he said it 3 or 4 times. And at that point, I became very scared because I thought I may never see my kid again, as he was the one who almost killed me by choking me out. And then it's just him and I alone in the cruiser, and there's a shotgun sitting there, so I wasn't sure if I was ever going to see my kid again.
Yeah. Now, this particular thing, because I know you a little bit, it particularly enrages me. But, there are hundreds or thousands of stories that are very similar to this, some of them worse, some of them ending up with people dead, that we never hear about because people don't have a voice. And when you're one person and you're up against, these gangs of thugs who have all the resources they could possibly want, paid for with money they steal from the taxpayers, and most people are going to take their word for it. How many hundreds or thousands of stories are this like this that nobody ever hears, that you never hear about it? Wasn't it true that didn't they give us their excuse in their report? They weren't leaving, even though they didn't have permission to be there, or they weren't leaving because they wanted to make sure you were okay?
Yeah.
And, yeah, they did a great job of making sure of that. So you start out sleeping in bed, and you end up beaten and kidnapped and threatened that you'll never see your child again. And so these brave public servants. So, yeah, I'm trying not to be pissed off, too. You're allowed to be emotional. You went through it.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out again, all of this stemmed from this female fascist is in your child's room, has no business being there, and won't leave. Because the charges are issuing threats, which was about telling her to leave, and then resisting arrest, because then they wanted to kidnap you for telling them to get out of your daughter's room, and then assault, because, of course, when these cowardly fascists are beating the hell out of you, if you do anything to resist, then that's assaulting a police officer. Of course, it's nothing when they beat the crap out of you. So all of the charges against you are from them starting this.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, and I'm facing, I just got my charge screening paper here, and when I went to court on April 14th, I was charged with assault on a peace officer, and Jeanette Drew took it upon herself to personally upgrade my charge to assault causing bodily harm, which can put me in jail for a long time. And the Crown is asking, it says, the Crown will ask for custody before a trial date and after a trial date.
as if it's not bad enough that you get brutally attacked in your own home, then you have to go through this prolonged stress, which even if they lose, they're terrorists. They want you to be scared that you're going to have to spend a bunch of time in a cage because you didn't just let them attack you without defending yourself, even though they swung first. And their own reports don't allege that you swung first. It was you said words, they threw you against the wall, beat the crap out of you, choked you, and did the rest. Oh, at the time, did you ask for their names and badge numbers?
Yeah, I did. After they stood me up, after almost killing me, I asked them for their badge numbers and their names, and they refused to give them.
There was a recording of the event as I was screaming to my 17-year-old brother-in-law, Bruce Clark, to record it on Jesse's cell phone. Mark Donaldson had saw that and came over and snatched the phone from Brucey and put it in his pocket. When Jesse went to go pick up his, when we both got out of jail, he went to go pick up his stuff from the police station, and lo and behold, no phone is there. So they've pocketed the phone in fear that a video would surface of the police brutality that they had committed against me. Later on some point, we have Find My iPhone. Jesse had said that he saw his iPhone get activated and turned on with Find My iPhone in Lindsay, so I don't know if the police officers tried to access it. It is locked, so we have no idea where the phone is. And it was turned on once, so we do know that.
In closing, is there anything you want to say to the rest of the world or even to the rest of Canada about what you've learned firsthand?
Yeah, don't be afraid to speak out. The truth is the truth, and these people are gang members, and they're not there to protect you. They're there to protect them and their fellow gang members, and that's what they're about. So people need to start standing up and speaking out about what happens to them when these peace officers come into their homes unwarranted. And if there is anybody in Lindsay, Ontario, who has personally experienced an incident with Jeanette Drew or Mark Donaldson, please come forward.
But thank you so much for daring to tell your story.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, because we need more people speaking out about this, especially First Nations women. I mean, I just did a video about murdered missing Indigenous women. We hold 4% of the population, yet we're the most incarcerated group of people, and I'm about to be incarcerated and make that percentage just a little bit higher.
Well, we'll see what we can do about that. But, okay, thanks again, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Now, there are countless horror stories like this, and most of them you never hear about. And as I understand it, a lot of Canadian police treat Indians up there the way a lot of U.S. police treat black people down here. And that is partly because if you're a bully, you want to pick on somebody who can't fight back. In this case, not necessarily physically, but if somebody doesn't have the resources or doesn't have the audience or doesn't have a way to do something about being abused, the cops know that they can get away with almost anything up to and including murder. And in the vast majority of cases, they do. And partly because departments and their fellow fascists will always stick up for them, because their loyalty is to their fellow gang members. It's not to you. Their job is not to protect and serve the people, despite the BS propaganda they use. Their job is, first and foremost, to act as hired thugs for their political masters, and then in their spare time, they like being sadistic, power-happy assholes, as you can see in this case, where they show up in a situation where all it was people yelling. They ended up making it violent. They ended up making it into a violent fight. And as you heard, Cheryl wasn't even part of the argument at that point. She was asleep. So these peace officers show up, and the end result is she has the crap beat out of her. She had all sorts of nerve damage. We didn't get into the details, but she had bruises and scrapes all over and nerve damage in her hands and a concussion, I think. I forget what all it was. But it was a lot. And that was entirely because the police showed up. So if anybody calls the police to settle things down, like, when are you going to learn your frickin' lesson? These people are professional escalators. They are there to have a fight. They are there to exercise their power. And this piece of shit Donaldson apparently likes to manhandle half-naked Indian women, threaten them with death, and threaten that they'll never see their child again. Why? Well, their excuse was, we wanted to make sure you were okay. Bullshit. Later I found out this is the same Mark Ryan Donaldson who was charged and arrested for fraud, for being part of a $250,000 fraud against the credit union, some Ontario civil service credit union. He was arrested last year for fraud. So what's he doing being a cop again? When he was charged with fraud over $5,000, laundering proceeds of crime, and criminal breach of trust. Well, the Crown, which the ridiculous Canadian government still calls its prosecutors, the Crown decided not to prosecute him without really giving a reason. I'll give you a reason. It's because he wears a frickin' badge. This is a gang of sadistic assholes, and you are now going to see them stick up for themselves and make excuses. Now, I am perfectly open to the possibility, which I think is extremely unlikely, that the police department, such as the police chief at the Lindsay police department there, is going to do something about this and drop the charges. But the likelihood of that happening is about zero. The chief will show that he's just another gang member. He's the head of the gang. He is loyal to his gang thugs. He doesn't give a crap about you. He doesn't give a crap about the people. He is on a power trip, like cops always are. And the BS line about, oh, it's just one bad apple. Then show me a good apple doing something about this crap. You can't. And in the reports, they'll write things, because I saw the reports in this case, they'll write things like, oh, we subdued the subject. It's like, wow, in that sentence, somehow that's all you had to say about strangling and beating somebody and beating them till they're black and blue, and have like long-term nerve damage. And you say, oh, subduing the individual. I forget their exact wording in this case, but that's what they do. They just leave that out. And we won't mention the fact that we like strangled her almost to unconsciousness. Instead, they're like, oh, she bit me. Yeah, because you were beating the crap out of her, ripping her shoulder out of the socket, assaulting her, invading her house without a warrant, without justification. Both of the people there said, you're not welcome here, get out. Invading her child's room. She didn't swing first. She would absolutely have been justified in swinging first, but she didn't. She tried to use words to get them to leave, and because that fascist piglet Drew didn't like those words, she throws her against the wall, then lies about it in the report, beats her, chases her around, loses the fight, and so calls in her backup thug, sadistic asshole Donaldson to beat her up, because that's what gang members do. And now, having beaten her up and terrorized her and traumatized her and her child, now they're trying to prosecute her for having resisted at all. And that's what all three of the charges are. Issuing threats, resisting arrest, and assaulting an officer, or now assault with bodily harm. Like, the amount of bodily harm you frickin' deserve, fascist Drew, is a hell of a lot worse than you got. But now they're trying to cage her. So this is the schoolyard bully going to the teacher and saying, he hit me, ground him, punish him. In fact, stick him in a cage for months. Because they're absolute frickin' cowards. And they know they have almost nothing to lose. It's so rare, first of all, that people will even believe this until they see it for themselves or live it themselves. They think, oh, the police would never do that. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate how many people are now learning the hard way what the police are actually like. And that, yes, they would absolutely do that and do it all the time. These are just a bunch of frickin' cowards. And I have a message for the police chief. If you want anybody to think that you're anything other than a gang of thugs, you're going to A, drop the charges against Cheryl, B, fire those sadistic assholes who are wearing badges who are doing this crap. And C, prosecute them for assault. Assault with bodily harm, as a matter of fact. But you're not going to, because you're a fascist Nazi coward. Now, you might drop the charges if enough people give you heat for backing up your fascist sadistic asshole thugs. So, I'm going to share this story, and I would suggest that anybody who would like to tell the fascists at this gang, they don't even deserve to be called a police department, tell them what you think of them. Here is their address, their mailing address, and here is their phone number. And the thing is, they know that in the vast majority of cases they have nothing to lose. What do they care? They own the prosecutors. They are the prosecutors. What's going to happen to them? You know, sometimes cops can outright commit murder on film and they still get let off. So if the people don't give them heat, whether, you know, as Frederick Douglass said, you know, with words or blows or both, they're going to keep doing it. They have no incentive not to. So I think we have to, when we see a situation like this, we have to put heat on them. And I'm going to just be as blunt as I can. Chief, whoever the hell you are, I didn't look up your name. You're probably just another stupid fascist apologist like the rest of them. That's how you got that position, along with all the cowardly, bootlicking prosecutors that work with you. If you want your good officers, I'm going to pretend you have some good officers. If you want them to be safe, if you want people to not hate them and shoot at them, the best thing you could possibly do is fire these sadistic assholes. Because if you keep these people on, you are teaching the rest of the world that there is no justice inside the system, that you and your gang in blue doesn't give a crap about them, doesn't give a crap about the truth, will try to cage people for resisting sadistic, completely unwarranted attacks on them. And if that's what people see, you know, JFK himself said it, if you make nonviolent revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. And I'm here to tell you right now, if the next intended victim of that sadistic asshole Donaldson decides to blow his fucking head off, the world will be a better place. If you want your good officers, if they actually exist, to be safe, fire that piece of shit. And I will end with this. Chief, whoever the hell you are, don't really care. You're just another mindless drone with a badge. If you continue with your efforts to try to cage Cheryl for having resisted the brutal attack against her by your mindless underling thugs, I will, one way or another, make damn sure that you regret it.